So without further ado, we're going to turn it over to Coach Harbaugh. Coach.
I honestly don't think I've ever been so nervous in my entire life. And we've done a lot of different things and talked to a lot of different groups, but when you come home, it's a little bit different. You know, the faces that you recognize and stories that you can relate. It's been 9 years, but it seems like 9 months ago that we were here and part of this great city of Bowling Green and this great University of Western Kentucky. And what made it special wasn't the buildings and all that. What made it special, the people that are associated with this town and with this university. The guys that played at Western, guys that the coaches and players and trainers and those people that were involved with our program. Kind of stand up. Let me just see where you are. Those guys, come on, stand up. Wow, isn't that something? For 9 years, they're still here. I mean, yeah, Ken was here, and it's so good to see you. Boy, we had some great times, didn't we? Back in that stadium, every time it rained. Remember when it rained in that old stadium? The water would just come pummeling down through the ceilings on top of us. And one time I said, we need some wooden lockers. Couldn't get wooden lockers, they would warp when the rain hit them, so we had to stay with those steel lockers. So I cry each and every time I come and see these facilities, and it's out of envy. It has nothing to do with pride or anything like that. It is sincerely and truly envy. But it's so nice to be back. Ross here, we go back. I don't remember those times that he just described, but I do remember back in 2003 when I was the associate athletics director at Marquette University, and we went down to Orlando, and they had a rookie school for incoming athletics directors, and you can imagine at that time I was the oldest rookie on the block. And Ross made a presentation at that meeting, and he knocked my socks off. And I didn't really remember Ross, but this presentation that he made, I said to myself, this guy is dynamite. This guy is on his way. And then I went up and visited with him. I was so impressed. I just wanted to get his number, name, and address where I could stay in touch, talk with him. Found out that he had been here at Western Kentucky. We talked on the phone 3 or 4 times, recommended a couple people to Marquette and some different things that we were doing. So this program is in good hands. This program's in good hands, and you are moving fast. Jump on board early now. Jump on board early, because momentum's going to pick up and it's going to move quickly. About 4 years ago, when Jim took the job at Stanford University, he asked me to come in and make a real quick, short presentation about the 40 years in coaching and that type of thing. And Willie was on that staff, and Willie asked me to kind of paraphrase that, maybe move along a little quicker with it, and kind of take you through that time frame. And here's what I talked about. Back in 1973, I went to the University of Michigan as an assistant football coach. 1973. The head coach at that time was a guy named Bo Schembechler. Now that name now may not mean much to you, but for 20 years he was the icon of college football coaching. The University of Michigan, Woody Hayes, Bo Schembechler, 10 times. 10-year war they called it. These guys matched up, and in 6 of those I was on Bo's staff. And those were interesting years for me, because I was a 33-year-old assistant coach who pretty much thought that I wrote the book, and that I pretty much knew all there was to know about football and coaching and all those different things. And it took me about a month to realize that I knew absolutely nothing. Leadership and putting a team together and all that, I knew absolutely nothing. And Bo made that pretty clear to me. He said, for 1 year, you just kind of sit here and keep your mouth shut. He said, after a year, you're going to have a feeling of what's going on around here, and then we're going to allow you to speak. And it didn't take quite a year, but pretty much a year. But I learned during those years, and he had something going on special. In those 7 years at Michigan, listen to this, we won 5 Big Ten championships, went to 3 Rose Bowls, 1 Orange Bowl, and 1 Gator Bowl. The 2 years that we didn't go to a bowl game, In 1973, we tied Ohio State, and the athletic director sent Ohio State to the Rose Bowl. For whatever reason, I don't know. So we didn't go anywhere. In those days, if you didn't win the Rose Bowl, you couldn't go to any bowl, so we stayed home. The next year, we lost to Ohio State in the last game of the season, the only game we lost. Again, because Ohio State beat us, they went to the Rose Bowl. So for the 2 years that we didn't go to bowl games, 73 and 74, we tied a game and we lost a game. 21-1, and never went to a bowl game. So those were the kind of years we had at the University of Michigan. Fast forward. In 2004, my son John gave me a book. And the book is called The 5 Dysfunctions of a Team. It's written by a guy named Patrick Lencioni. L-E-N-C-I-O-N-I. Patrick Lencioni wrote the book. Had nothing to do with football. Has nothing to do with athletics. It's a motto, it's a fable written about a business out in California. The business was failing, and this CEO came in and totally changed the mentality of the business. 5 dysfunctions of a team. And I want you to know, I read the book once. My son John gave it to me. I read the book once, put it down, picked it up the next day and read it again. It takes about 3 or 4 hours to read. Have read it 7 times. And it hit me, bang, right in the nose. Bang, right in the nose. This is Bo Schembechler. This is the model that Bo Schembechler had at the university without ever describing it, without ever talking about it, without ever really maybe understanding what he had. And that's what I want to kind of share with you. I'm going to take about 15 minutes to do that. Hopefully you'll bear with me. The model is this. If you can picture a giant triangle. Triangle at the top and it works its way down to the bottom. And that's the model for what I'm going to talk about. And in that model there are 5 levels. 1, 2, 3, 4, and then the pinnacle at the top. That's what the model's all about. The base of that model is trust. Now you have to understand, before you can get to 2, you have to master 1. Before you can get to 3, you have to master 1 and 2. Before you can go on up to the tip of that pyramid, you've got to master each one of those levels as you move through them. And at the bottom of that pyramid is trust. Now this is a team right here. Ross is the leader of this team. And he wants this to be the best team in the Sun Belt Conference. He wants this to be the best team maybe in NCAA. He wants it to be the best of everything as it relates to winning games, graduating students, as it relates to doing it right. I would guess that's the model. That's what he looks for. That's the tip of this pyramid and this team. And you're all part of that team. Now Willie Taggart right here, he has another team. His team is his football staff. And he'll deal with those in some time today, and he'll talk to them sometime today. Basketball, Ken has his group. Each of you are leaders of your particular team. And you can keep, Carl is a leader of his linebacker group. That's his team, and he's going to deal with them. So everybody here is a leader in some way. Everybody here is a team member in some way. Now, move it forward. Not just are you on a part of a professional team, you are on a personal team. When you go home tonight, you and your spouse are a part of a team. Just the 2 of you are part of a team, putting this team together. You may have family. Now it's your co-leaders. You're co-team leaders. You're dealing with your family. Friends, as you deal with your handful of friends, or maybe 2 handfuls of friends. That's all part of team building. So the base of all those teams, Willie's team, Ken's team, Ross's team, everybody's team in here is trust. Now what is trust? Fundamental. Here's 3 things that you never do if you're building trust within your team. Number 1, you never lie. Number 2, you never cheat. And number 3, you never steal. Never lie, never cheat, never steal. Once you lie, once you cheat, and once you steal, it's over. You can't have trust. You can't have trust within your team. Professionally, you can't have trust with your wife. You can't have trust with your family. You can't have trust with your friends. It's over. So each and every time, and we're all human beings. We all get to that point. Maybe, should I cheat? Maybe. Can't have trust. Should I lie? Man, it's just a little white lie. Can't have trust, so we can't do it, never. Here's the things that you, those things you should never do. Here are the things you don't do. You don't whine, you don't point fingers, you don't make excuses, you don't pout, because those are trust destroyers. They will cut the fabric right in half. No one wants to hear you whine. No one wants to hear you tell how bad it is for you. Everybody's got it bad. That's the last thing that they want to hear. Do you want to hear it from your team members? And certainly as a member of a team, your leaders don't want to hear it either. So you don't do those things. So what do? You're vulnerable. You admit mistakes. There might be a better way to do it. That's hard to do for us as head coaches. It's hard for us to do as leaders. It's hard for us sometimes to do in our family. We all have egos, big as the world, don't we? We wouldn't be in athletics if we didn't have egos. So sometimes it's hard to say I made a mistake. Every once in a while you got to take a bullet. Every once in a while you got to take a bullet. In my thinking, you take one. I'll take one bullet for you. That's it. Second bullet, you're on your own. Sometimes Jim Harbaugh was a master at this. I don't know how many times you saw Stanford this year. He is the master of this one. Jim Harbaugh, how'd it go today? Here, talk to Andrew Luck. He's our quarterback. Jim Harbaugh, how's it going? Here, Owen Brisick, our fullback, right over here. You go talk to him. And what that means is it's easy to stand up there, pass it on, pass some of the glory and some of the gravy and some of the good times on to your team members. And then step to the background. When things are going well, you step to the background. When things are not going so well, boom, take one bullet. And after that, as I say, it's up to them. So through all of this, you develop trust in your group. And trust is like you're either getting better or you're getting worse. Trust is you're either gaining trust or you're losing trust. It never stays stagnant. You always have to work at this on a daily basis. Okay, now let's jump to the top of the pyramid. Top of the pyramid is goals. But those goals have to be team goals. When I would interview a coach, and Willie, I interview here's a question I ask. Describe to me your greatest accomplishment as an athlete. And what am I looking for? Your greatest accomplishment as an athlete. What was your greatest accomplishment as an athlete? If he told me it had something to do with a team, we won the national championship in 2002. This is the kind of guy I want on the staff. This guy's talking about team. If he talked about how he rushed for 500 yards in a high school football game when he was 16 years old, I wasn't real excited about that. Or he told me about how he was the offensive coordinator for a team that finished 8th in the such and such conference. That didn't really excite me much. I was interested in someone who could talk about team goals. So at the top of that pyramid, we don't individual goals. We're looking for team goals. We're looking for winning the Sun Belt Conference Championship. We're talking about that kind of as a goal at the top. So now we're the trust at the bottom. We're at our goals at the top. Now, how do we get there? The second one is the one that I really enjoy most. It's called conflict. Conflict. When you woke up this morning, I want you to know, if you didn't think of coming to work and being in a fist fight, you're in the wrong business. Because every day you're in this business, you are in a fist fight. You don't know when it's going to come. You get here at what, 7:30? The fight may come at 8. It may come at 10. You may have confronted with a problem at 1. Before you go home at night, 5 minutes before you go, you're stuck. Problem. But there's something's going to come up today in which you're going to be in this conflict. You're going to be in this type of thing. And I always enjoyed that. And every once in a while, John and Jim will call. Dad, I got a problem. Yes! That's about the only time they call. But I'm excited about that, to dig in and to work through it. The greatest place I ever worked where conflict was the center of what we did was the University of Michigan. Bo, if he got into a meeting, and meetings are where these things happen. Meetings are where these conflicts happen. And if there wasn't a fight going on, here's something he might do. Carl, tell me how you're playing that stretch play. How's that linebacker going to play that stretch play? Tell me about that. How's he going to do that?
Get outside, set the edge.
Yes, sir, Ray. What do you think about that? Is that a good idea?
Great idea.
Anybody who doesn't like that idea, what do you think, Willie? Is that a good idea? Tell me it's not. Willie,
That's garbage.
hey, you bet it is. Tell him why it's garbage, Willie.
It's garbage because we're going to reach him. He's not strong enough. We're going to get around.
That's right. What do you say, Carl? He's full of crap, isn't he? You going to let him stand up here and tell you that? No, sir, Ray. We're going to get into a fist fight. And eventually it's going to work out. Now I see Terry over here's not talking. So, Terry, you have no opinion on that?
I have an opinion.
Well, let me hear it.
Give it to the receiver.
There! A little concerned about yourself, He's kind of looking for something a little more team-oriented. For you to dig in there and kind of tell me how you felt. Maybe blocking on the edge there, but give it to the receiver wasn't quite the answer I was looking for. But anyway, that's the way. In every meeting with Bo Schembechler was that kind of a meeting, and no one brought in a computer. No one brought in a cell phone. No one brought in a texting thing. Hell, there's too much excitement going in here to be talking to anybody. I want to find out what's going on. I want to find out who's going to stand up on that table and pound that table. We had a guy quit. No, he got fired. There was a guy at the University of Michigan. His name was Jerry Hanlon. He was our offensive line coach, crusty old guy. He had to be 20 years older than I was. And he was 10 years older than Bo, and he was our offensive line coach. And so what Bo would go, Jerry, what do you think of that isolation play? I can't block it that way. What do you mean you can't block it that way? And they'd get into a fight. And it would be screaming, yelling. Jerry, that's it. Get your ass out of here. You are fired. Go home. You're too old to coach. I should have fired you 10 years ago. I'm going to bring some young guy in here that can get these guys fired up. Go home. So Jerry would say, yes, sir. Those things. He'd walk out the door, down the steps, in his car, he'd go home. And then it would get to be about 12 o'clock, script time. And Bo would go, where are the offensive scripts? Jerry does the offensive script. Where is he? You fired him. Get him back in here. But he knew what was going to happen, so he already had done the script. So the scripts were in, they'd do them, and we'd be off. But that was a daily thing. Don Nealon. Anyone here ever heard of Don Nealon? Don Nealon was a longtime football coach at West Virginia and a dear friend of mine. He and I played together at Bowling Green, then I coached with him at Bowling Green. So he comes to Michigan as the running backs coach. So Bo, he goes into a meeting the first day, and it is screaming and yelling, and you're fired, and you're too old to coach, and you don't know how to coach, you don't know what's going on. Went for like 5 hours, 4 or 5 hours. At noon, I'm at my desk, because I'm in the defensive meetings, thank God. I didn't have to sit into a lot of those offensive meetings. So Don comes in, he goes, closes the door, puts his hand on the desk. Jack, is it like this every day? I looked at him and said, Don, every single day you're here, that's exactly how it's going to be. And he goes, oh, no. But he stayed about 4 years, and then finally he ran out of ammunition, went on to West Virginia University. But that's conflict. But you know what? There's no one in this room, no one, not you, that's smarter than everybody in this room. Nobody. As a group, suggesting and batting things around and discussing things and talking about things, then you come to conclusions that are going to be helpful to you. No one man, no two men, I don't think, can come up with all the different ideas that they need to do. So conflict brings out ideas. Okay, now the next one. The next one is called commitment. Once all these things have been battered around, once the head coach or whomever decides this is the way it's going to be done, then there's got to be a commitment. There's got to be a closure to the discussion, and now there's got to be how we're going to do it. When you get to commitment, two things have to happen. The first thing that has to happen is there's got to be clarity on how we're going to do it. There can't be any misunderstanding. Carl may think he's leaving there thinking we're doing it his way. Willie may be leaving the room thinking it's the way he wanted it to do. And they go to their team members and discuss it in the way they understood it to be. But before you leave that meeting of conflict, there's got to be clarity. The head coach stands up and says, gentlemen, this is the way we're going to do it. Is there any misunderstanding? Is there anyone that doesn't understand what we're going to do? But this is the way we're going to do it. Everybody shakes their head and leaves, so we understand, everybody understands how we're going to do it. The next part of that, clarity and buy-in. Great idea, Carl, but we aren't doing it your way. So it's no longer your way, it's our way. This is the way we're going to do it. Total buy-in to that thing. You don't go home at night with your wife or your spouse or your husband and say, you know what, I don't know what the hell's going on over there. I had a great idea and they shot me down and they're going to do it Willie's way, but let me just tell you something. We'll find out a way. We'll get it done my way. You're in big, big trouble when you're trying to develop a team in that fashion. So it's got to be clarity on how you're doing it and a total buy-in on what you've decided on in that particular meeting. Total commitment. And I'm going to tell you what, in my 9 years since leaving coaching, the biggest problem, I'm not talking about basketball or anything, I'm talking about football. The biggest problem is we have all these titles. I'm the offensive coordinator, I'm the defensive coordinator, I'm the assistant to the head coach, I'm the assistant to the offensive coordinator's right arm, I'm the assistant to the quarterback coordinator's left arm, I am the what. If you don't have a title, can't coach anymore. Back in the old days, ball coach was good enough for me. Just give me a seat, give me a projector, and I'm on my way. I don't have to be anything but coach. And I think that's kind of hurt our game a little bit because everybody has these egos and they want to flex their muscles with a title. But that commitment, I don't care if you're right arm, left arm, or what you are, when you leave that meeting, you're committed to what you're doing. Now we're to the last one. Now remember how we got there. We went from trust, believing in every member in that room. Then we went to confidence. We trusted each other so much that we could duke things out. Then after all that conflict, we were committed on this is the way we're going to do it. Now we come to 4, accountability. Now I am accountable for what we just talked about. And it's easy to be accountable for your position, or you will be accountable for your job. That's the easy part. I'm going to go out and I'm going to do it just the way Coach Taggart wanted to do it. I'm going to go out and do it just the way Walter decided to block that power play. That's the way we're going to do it. And I'm out there grinding away, and then all at once I look over here, and there's a member of our staff, there's somebody on the staff that sat in that meeting, it's not doing it that way. Whose job is that to get it squared away? Help me. Whose job is that to get it squared away? Can you help me? Whose job is that to get it squared away? Is that the head coach's job? Whoever sees it. Beautiful. Whoever sees it. How hard is that? I'm the secondary coach at the University of Michigan. Been there 3 weeks. I see the linebacker coach. We talked about how we're going to defend that little stick route, and we aren't doing it. We're not doing it like we do. He's not doing it. I'm doing my job. He's not doing his job. In how many organizations do you find out guys say, I can't wait till coach finds out about what he's doing. He's going to get his butt chewed. Oh, it's going to be fun. It's going to be a megatonner when he finds out. I don't want to be the guy to tell him. Tell the head coach, I don't want to be the guy. You know why? He's liable to jump on me. So I'm just going to stand back here with a little smile on my face. And when he gets caught, then go home and tell you what. You're going to have something tomorrow. We're going to look at that tape tomorrow. Coach is going to see it. I can't. You ought to come in and look. It's really going to be fun. Is that the way to do it in a good team? No. Way in a good team. I'm on the team, right? Linebacker coach isn't doing it right. I thought we talked about we're going to do that. When we see that guy come down, we're going to snug up on him, hip him a little bit, and try to jump in front of him. Isn't that the way we decided to do it?
Yep.
Why aren't we doing it?
Have my own way.
Well, then you and I ought to go talk to the head coach. But you know what? Let me tell you the second part. The second part is part of being accountable. If I'm at the water cooler, and Dante comes up to me, and Dante would never do this, of course, and Dante comes up to me and says, you know, I don't know what the hell the old man's doing. I think he's lost his mind. He's a little old now, and his senses are starting to leave him. And didn't he just tell us that on 3rd down, we wanted to run this play? And we had a 3rd down situation in the game, and he ran that play. What's going on with him? Here's what I would do. Here's what you do on a good team. Dante, you know what? Let me jump up there a second. Just sit right there. Dante, you know what? You're telling me that, right?
Yes, sir.
I think that's a hell of an idea. I totally agree with you. Come on, let's go. This is Willie here. He's the head coach. Why don't you ask him? And I'll sit here, because I too. I'm gonna tell him how to agree. Go ahead, Dante, ask.
Why do we run that play on third down?
Okay, good, we got the answer. How hard is that? You know what we do though? You know what we do in coaching and with our kids even, in our families? Somebody asks something that's off the wall and you don't understand it. You roll your eyes, you might not say a word, but you roll your eyes and your body language tells you that you agree. Not because you agree, because you just want to move on. But that's not solving the problem. So accountability is you're not just accountable for yourself, you're accountable for every member of the team. Now I would never go and coach another coach's players, but I would certainly bring it up to him that what I saw wasn't exactly what we had decided to do. So let's go through that model with me. Team building. Trust. Every member in this room must trust in what Ross is doing. You must trust in him personally. That's what we're talking about, personal trust. That this guy has the wherewithal to take this athletic program where he envisions it to be and where you, in your particular sport, want it to do. And maybe you need to talk that out if you're not clear on it. But that trust has got to be undivided. It has to be rock solid in the support and trust in each other, back and forth, truster and trustee. Then once we get there, we get a chance. Ross, I'm sure, and every coach in here is going to give you a chance to tell it, talk about it. Like Bo told me, it took me a little while to get on board. It took me a little while to understand where they were, but I had an open forum to his office, open door policy. Anytime I wanted to come in and talk, I had an opportunity to do that. And you enjoy those conflicts. You enjoy those battles. Then you go to commitment. We commit on what we're going to do. Then we're accountable not just for ourselves, but we're accountable for everybody there. You are accountable for each other as it relates to what Ross's vision is for this program. And to make sure everybody's pulling and moving and pushing in the same direction. Then at the top, those goals should be team goals. And another point on that is, as an old secondary coach, you know what secondary is? That's the defensive back guy. That's the guy when the game's over, all the fans are wondering why you keep throwing those short passes on the secondary coach. Like they threw them on me. I had nothing. It was a linebacker's guy. You know, that's not good, is it? It's that team building thing. But anyway, as a secondary coach. So I was just a part of that whole thing. I was just a small member of that whole thing. But I would go home and tell my wife when I was on bad programs, when I coached at bad places, and I coached at plenty of them. Well, I'll tell you one thing, Jackie. Threw 10 passes today and completed 6 for 75 yards. I think my guys did one hell of a job. Pretty impressed with myself. And she said, well, Jack, I'm really impressed with you too. And then, how'd the game go? Well, we got beat 45-0. But my guys played really well. I know one thing, tomorrow at the meeting, no one's going to say much about how my guys played. That's not part of the team building process either. In football, we see it more, I think, we do in basketball, right, Ken? I don't think you see more of it. Everybody engaged in team activities for you, right? For us in football, we've got these separate little empires that we rule over, and we're caught up in that sometimes. So being accountable, and then the team goal at the top. Just this last thing I want to share. Jackie and I have really been blessed with our kids, and I want you to know how much I had to do with it about this. Dixie will tell you, Jackie was the one that kind of cracked the whip over all of us, but it turned out well. And there's a sign above Jim's door at Stanford University, and Willie will tell you about it. It's a sign that every recruit and his parents walk through the door, look at, and then after they speak to the head coach, they walk out, and it's on the other side. So you see it on both sides. And you never talk about it. Never mention it. Because it has to do with being parents, it has to do with being coaches, it has to do with being teachers, and it has to do with parenting. And that sign, and I want to share that sign with you as I get out of here. The sign reads like this. The things you should never do for your children, and the thing and I will never do as a coach for my players. The first one, I will never do for them what they could do for themselves. I will never do for them what they can do for themselves. And I see it just in parenting, Well, my wife and I went through a lot of this. God, we don't want our kids to have to suffer like we suffered. What do you mean suffering? Well, we had a summer job. Is that suffering? I think it's a pretty good idea that they kind of work a summer job to find out what it's all about. They're not going to suffer like me, boy. Even if we have to take out a loan, we're going to find a way to get that wagon. Well, the kid next door has a wagon. Why don't we just use his wagon? So at some point in time, the point I'm saying is maybe we do too much for our players, maybe we do too much for our children, we're doing it with good conscience, and we just want it to be better for them. Never do for your children what they can do for themselves. Second, never allow your children to be less than they can be. Make them be the best they can be. Insist that they be the best they can be. And in Little League now, I got these grandkids. Boy, it's fun to watch these grandkids. We're out there playing soccer, and if a kid kicks the ball once, yes! I mean, we get excited. And I think, well, maybe, why can't he score a goal? Why couldn't he just kind of hip up on that guy? Kind of move him. And after it's over, I mean, you did great, you kicked the ball. I said, well, come on over here, let me talk to you. I really think you can do more. But it's that second one. Don't allow them to be less than what they can be. And the third one is, don't let them be empowered by being an athlete. In this day to day, if a kid in the 7th grade shoots a 15-foot jump shot, mom and dad and uncles and aunts and grandpas and everybody think he is bound for the NBA. Don't they? Because he shot a basket, or he scored a touchdown, or he whatever, he, NFL, big money, house, car, I mean, the sky is the limit in the 7th grade. And so what we do in that case is sometimes as parents and sometimes as coaches, when we have kids like that, we let them, well, you are empowered. I mean, you are something really, really special because you're an athlete. And I'm not sure that that's teaching them the right lesson. The last one, Dixie's going to love. Nothing can supplant an education. Nothing can supplant an education. 1% of every youngster that comes out of high school will get a college scholarship. 1% of all the youngsters that play high school football will go to college on a scholarship. Less than 1% of all the youngsters that play college football will be drafted into the NFL. 1%. So the odds say you're better off going to school and getting a degree in some meaningful area. I'm talking to the choir, I know that. That's that fourth thing that I'm talking about. Education is where it all, 1%, 1%. It all comes down to that. So those four things again. Never do for them what they can do for themselves. Never allow them to be anything than the best that they can be. Never allow them to be empowered because they happen to be an athlete. They happen to wear a uniform of some kind. That's a privilege, not an entitlement. And the last thing is, never allow them that anything they do in athletics ever be able to top what they do as far as an education is concerned. Thank you very much. Had a great time. Hope I didn't keep you too late. I remember these meetings.